Whatever happened to Sega? Yeah, I know. We all know the story of Sega's rise. How a company seemingly coming out of nowhere to create the Sega Genesis, a console that gave Nintendo a run for its money. And oh boy, the games were amazing. Sonic or Mortal Kombat with actual red blood, something that Nintendo would never do on their child console. If you're a 90s kid like me, Sega Genesis was probably on the top of your Christmas wishlist. And also, the commercials. They were so good, really taking a swing at Nintendo where it hurt the most. Do you remember this?
Genesis does.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo don't.
And yes, we all remember the downfall of Sega. How they started releasing upgrades to the Genesis, like Sega CD or 32X that you had to buy to play the latest games. Or the release of the Sega Saturn, the console that was gonna rejuvenate Sega again. But then got crushed by Sony's PlayStation that came out just a couple of months later, $100 cheaper
$299.
and with much better games. And then lastly, the Dreamcast. Oh, the Dreamcast. It was so cool. It had internet in 1999. It was way ahead of its time. But damn, it was up against the Sony PlayStation 2, and after just a couple of years, they discontinued it, and Sega in the console wars was no more.
It's thinking.
Yes, we know this story. But what we don't know is, what happened next? Did Sega just sail into the sunset, never to be heard again? Or is there something we're missing about the Sega story? This question has been haunting me for months, which is why I've decided to make this video. So without further ado, I'm here to tell you the rest of the story. So let's pick up where we left off, the end of the Dreamcast, and really the end of Sega in the console war. Because the leadership had had enough, and they knew it was no longer viable to compete in this space against giants like Nintendo, Sony, and a little bit later, Microsoft. Sega might have given up on its most ambitious gaming ventures, but it still had a lot of innovation up its sleeve. You see, during the console troubles, Sega was still massive in the arcade industry. And even though this industry was also shrinking quite fast, Sega still had some marvelous products that kept the cash flowing in. One of the most innovative and culturally impactful things that Sega did during this time was the so-called Purikura photo booth. Purikura, also short for Purinto Krabu in Japanese, is a photo booth where you take photos or selfies of yourself and your friends, and then you can edit those photos afterwards, and the booth will then print them out. This literally created the selfie trend that then traveled all around the world. Sadly, more and more competitors started swarming the field. And on top of that, the smartphone became more widespread and became the de facto selfie machine for most young people. With this, Sega started losing its cash cow even in the arcade space. Sega becomes a hotel company? In the early 2000s, the Sega leadership could already see the writing on the wall. Gaming was not as profitable anymore, and they had to come up with new income streams. In one of the most ambitious, yet very controversial moves, Sega decided to venture into the hotel resort business. In 2003, Sega acquired the massive Phoenix Segaya Resort in Miyazaki, Japan. This massive resort, located right next to the ocean, had multiple luxury hotels, golf courses, swimming pools, and convention facilities. And Sega's vision for the place was just as massive. Sega planned to infuse the resort with its iconic gaming technology, creating an unparalleled entertainment experience that would attract tourists from all over the world to tiny Miyazaki. They were envisioning integrating virtual reality experiences and interactive gaming into the resort's offerings, turning it into a unique fusion of traditional luxury leisure with futuristic entertainment. But sadly, reality hit them hard. The resort business proved to be way more challenging and capital intensive than the leadership had anticipated. The cost of maintaining and upgrading the existing facilities were enormous, and the Japanese tourist market was already highly competitive, and the Phoenix Seagaya Resort sadly struggled to carve out a distinctive niche that could consistently draw visitors. And this is not to say that the resort was a complete failure. A lot of people really appreciated the upgrades that was made to the hotel resort, and it's still very highly rated on Google. But it did cost Sega dearly. You see, the financial strain from this resort venture began to weigh heavily on Sega's overall financial health. The project also drained resources that could have been used to possibly make the gaming section of Sega, still its core business, better. But now it was worse than ever, with competitors like Sony and Nintendo, and now Microsoft, getting ever closer to demolish Sega. As losses continued to increase, the Segaya Resort became a symbol of Sega's overreach and misjudgment. A deal with the devil. In 2004, the steam from Sega's once gigantic gaming empire had almost run out, and the company was in dire straits. Then came a knight in shining armor to save the day. Sammy Corporation. There was just a teeny tiny problem with Sammy Corporation. You see, Sammy Corporation was a titan in the Japanese pachinko machine industry, which is Japan's primary form of gambling. If you've ever been to Japan, you've probably seen these massive buildings that look really crazy, dotted all around Japan. These buildings are packed with pachinko machines, which are basically vertical pinball machines that are used for gambling. And these buildings are also filled with addicted gamblers. Sammy proposed a merger with Sega, and it really was Sega's lifeline. But it also became a deal with the devil. Because yes, it did stabilize Sega's finances, but at a steep cost to its public persona. Pachinko's hefty and stable revenue stream was just what Sega needed. But the alliance also smeared its reputation, making investors associate the company with the dirty gambling industry. In fact, even though Sega Sammy makes way more money today than Sega did in 2004, the share price is still lower today than it was back then. But do not fret, my avid viewers, because Sega still had skin in the game.
さて、一丁決めてくるか。
After the merger, even though Sammy was a gambling company, Sega remained committed to its core business of gaming, albeit with a strategic pivot. Sega started aggressively buying up foreign gaming studios to increase its development capabilities and extend its geographical footprint. In 2005, Sega acquired the British gaming studio Creative Assembly, the studio most famous for the Total War series. According to me, the best strategy game series ever made. Sega was keen on keeping the newly acquired studios independent, and for Creative Assembly, this worked great. Based on this success, Sega decided to acquire Relic Entertainment, a Canadian studio known for its expertise in real-time strategy games, including Company of Heroes and the very famous Warhammer 40,000 series. There were some synergies between the studios, like for example, Creative Assembly and Relic Entertainment worked together to create Warhammer Total War, which was a success. But at the end of the day, even though many of the games were critically acclaimed, they didn't do that much for Sega's sales revenue. Especially Relic Entertainment was struggling. With games like Dawn of War 3 that were really expensive to develop, but just didn't meet sales expectations, it became more and more clear to Sega's leadership that the company needed to find new revenue streams. Enter the movie industry. In the late 2010s, Sega had greenlit the development of the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And when they released the first trailer for the movie, they had way more internet buzz than they anticipated. But for all the wrong reasons. You see, the design of the new Sonic was horrific. He looked realistic, scary, and not kid-friendly at all. And many fans were so angry that their childhood hero had been turned into some kind of realistic horror monster. But to everyone's surprise, Sega did something almost unheard of. They actually listened to their fans. The studio pushed back the release date from November 2019 to February 2020 to redesign Sonic, transforming him into a character that actually really resembled the beloved blue hedgehog. And the result? Well, actually, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was a box office hit, earning praise from both old fans and new fans who found its family-friendly but still cheeky approach very approachable. And with stars like Jim Carrey delivering an excellent performance as Dr. Robotnik, people were very happy with the movie. More than anything, I think this showed just how powerful Sega's IPs were and how much money they could rake in if they managed to use them to their true potential. And I think the Sega leadership partly understood this after the success of the Sonic movie, but more than anything, they learned another lesson. Casual audiences and cute characters equals profit. So, in 2022, Sega acquired Rovio Entertainment, the Finnish powerhouse behind the wildly successful Angry Birds franchise. And this wasn't just any acquisition. This was actually the biggest acquisition to date for Sega, worth over 100 billion yen. And it really showed Sega's new commitment, away from hardcore gamers to more casual audiences, mobile gamers, and people who love cutesy characters like the Rovio Angry Birds. And in the same year, Sega Sammy decided to double down on the gambling market. They acquired GAN Limited, which is a huge American provider of internet betting solutions for the casino industry, which helped them to get more into the betting industry, which has way more predictable revenue than the really unpredictable gaming industry. And to add more salt to the wounds of Sega's gaming fans, in late 2023, the company decided to cancel Hyenas, a really ambitious project by Creative Assembly intended to break into the huge online FPS market. And if that wasn't enough, earlier this year, Sega decided to downsize the European gaming staff. The company laid off 240 employees across its European studios, including major layoffs at Creative Assembly. And they sold off Relic Entertainment. Yeah, I mean, I'm sad to say this, but the writing on the wall is really clear. Sega is ditching its gamers for more casual audiences and gamblers. And I mean, I understand why. Like, it's quite easy to see that Sega for over 10 years now have been really trying hard to get the momentum up for their gaming segment. They've given their studios a lot of autonomy to create amazing titles that were really critically acclaimed, but that just didn't meet the sales numbers that Sega were expecting. And then, on the side, they look at the gambling industry and it just keeps delivering results every quarter, every year. So it's really easy to see why Sega would do this shift. And on top of that, their Sonic movie, that was, yeah, sure, a callback to Sega's original Sonic character. But more than anything, a casual family movie that just did so well It really makes so much sense that the leadership of Sega just look at this and say, hey man, we should just take the easier wins, you know? We don't need to create the next masterpiece super mega game. Let's go for the easy cash grab audiences, you know? The kids, the gamblers. And I think, especially short term, this is a really good strategy and it might generate, you know, stable revenues for a company that's been in chaos for so long. But the question is, what cost does this business model have to Sega in the long run? What's next for Sega? As I think about the future of Sega, it's very easy to see the most likely path Sega will go towards. Yes, this path includes some interesting movies, like another Sonic the Hedgehog movie, some Angry Birds movie perhaps, or any other really cool franchise that could be a cool movie. I, for one, would love to see the Yakuza series turn into a wacky, super serious gangster movie. But more than that, what the future seems to entail for Sega is that they will pivot more and more to the gambling sector. And very likely we will soon see characters like Sonic, or maybe the Angry Birds, or even the cast of Persona 5 being part of slot machines in Las Vegas, or any other gambling website you might use. Another quite likely scenario is that another gaming studio comes in and swoops up the biggest IPs that Sega has right now. I think this is quite a good scenario for all the gamers out there. Because imagine, right? All the IPs that Sega hold, like Sonic and Persona 5 and Yakuza, etc., being treated with the respect they deserve. Getting those AAA games on PlayStation 5, that would really be so cool. But I think there's also a chance that Sega would do it themselves. You know, Sega still holds one of the largest legacy expertise in gaming innovation, and they really are good at it. In fact, if you go to Japan right now and go to any arcade here that is run by Sega, which are a lot, you'll see some of the coolest arcade machines ever invented, truly ahead of their time. And I don't see any reason why these innovations can't be brought to a smaller form, like a home console, or just inside the games with peripherals, etc., to make games more immersive than what we used to today. I really think Sega could do it if they put their mind to it. And I know it's a big risk, and it's a risk they have been taking before and failed. This is how the video started after all. But still, I think that there's something that can be done here, and I really hope that Sega tries once more, just for the heck of it. Anyways, I digress. All I want to say is that regardless of the path Sega Sammy chooses, the legacy the company has had on the gaming industry is enormous. And I think it's safe to say that without Sega, the industry as we know it would look completely different. So, before I end this, I just want to speak to you directly, Sega Sammy, and tell you that please, do what you think is right for all the gamers out there. But regardless of what you do, I still love you, man. And with that said, and to all the people that are listening and watching this, thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.